What's up, guys? This is Webby back again for the Survivor Series Part 2 podcast. The Survivor Series this year in 1988 had an awesome headliner. The Twin Towers, along with their teammates, versus the Mega Powers, along with their teammates. We will be going over that here on this review, along with the Ultimate Warrior leading his team in versus the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, leading his team into the Survivor Series. All that plus so much more right here on this review. We will be discussing interesting developments coming in and out of both of those matches, interesting stories leading up to the Survivor Series. Very interesting stories leading up to that matchup. Huge tag team encounter. WWE, even back then, now that I'm watching these Survivor Series matches, Survivor Series pay-per-views, all the way back in the 80s, all the way up to where we're at now, a lot of people don't like it because they stick everybody on the card in their main show, on their main 4 or 5 pay-per-views. They don't like it because they stick everybody on the card. Truth be told, not everybody belongs on the biggest shows. And what I'm seeing here has a huge trend to it. Starting with this matchup that I'm about to go over. Demolition, the Conquistadors, the Brainbusters, the Bolsheviks, and the fabulous Rougeau brothers. They take on the Powers of Pain, the Young Stallions, the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, and the Rockers. I understand having some tag teams in a elimination style matchup. I completely understand that, but is there a sense in having all the tag teams in a elimination style matchup? No, there is not. Absolutely not. There's no sense in having it like that. It's just WWE's way of throwing every tag team, everybody, into the Survivor Series. Now, in this matchup, there was something very interesting that happened. There was a huge rivalry that broke out in the contest that really sticks out and people remember today about it. And that is Demolition and the Powers of Pain. Mr. Fuji was the manager of Demolition, led them to the Tag Team Championship. He turned his back on Demolition on this very night. He was getting up on the ropes when Demolition and the Powers of Pain was wrestling inside the squared circle and tripped over, smash in the middle rope, had an altercation with both members of Demolition, used a devious, hurtful, still nasty cane that he has on acts of demolition, he regretted that because he got slammed right on the concrete floor. Demolition gets counted out. Now, the biggest thing to really think about in the scheme of things is Powers of Pain help him up, Mr. Fuji up, or Master Fuji, and Powers of Pain win the match. Demolition comes back out, chase him off. They have an interview later on saying that Demolition wasn't talking and wouldn't listen to Master Fuji anymore, and they're coming after those tag team championships, amongst other things. All of this led to WrestleMania 5, and where it was a 3-on-2 handicap match for the tag team championship. Demolition versus Power of Pain. Very interesting, intriguing, important part of the WWE back then when it comes to tag teams for their company. Great way to build to a very important match. And it started a long time ago, before that WrestleMania match. So, very interesting and a great way to start the build for that matchup. The Ultimate Warriors team. He led Bruce the Barber Beefcake, Sam Houston, the Blue Blazer, and Jumpin' Jim Runzel versus the Honky Tonk Man, Danny Davis, Dangerous Danny Davis, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Ron Bass, and Bad News Brown. This contest, look, it was built, the biggest thing that was built around was the Honky Tonk Man losing the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam to the Ultimate Warrior very quickly, because the Honky Tonk Man did not have an opponent, and he came out and said he wanted an opponent for the IC strap. And there you go. That was the start for this rivalry that led up to the Survivor Series. This contest, very good matchup, very good. One big thing to point out is Bad News Brown. Bad News Brown, a strict loner, did not like tag teaming with anybody. I mean, he had his mindset on one thing, and that's the WWE Championship. He had his mindset on that one thing, WWE title, and beating people up alone. He was doing a great job in doing that. He was undefeated at that time. There was one point in the matchup where he accidentally got hit by Greg the Hammer Valentine, and then he went to the showers. He got mad and said, "Forget this, I'm gone. I don't need this contest. I don't need anybody in this matchup. I'm hitting the road." And that's exactly what he did. Bad News Brown was counted out. Big part of that matchup was Bad News Brown leaving. Absolutely. Dangerous Danny Davis got eliminated very quickly. The biggest thing, that really happened is WWE Even though it's great to see the Ultimate Warrior go absolutely ballistic like he always does, it's a guaranteed thing that he's going to win. Back then, each and every time he stepped inside the squared circle, very, very few times do we ever see him lose. It was a 2-on-1 handicap match down towards the end, and he ended up beating very quickly Ron Bass and Greg the Hammer Valentine, both with double axe handles. Ultimate Warrior victorious and the sole survivor in this matchup. Bad News Brown cuts a promo and says he wants a WWE Championship. Why not? He's undefeated and he won the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 4. Huge winning streak, destroying people left and right. He wanted the Macho Man Randy Savage for the WWE Championship later on down the road, and that's where he had his mindset and eyes on the prize. Jake the Snake Roberts led his team, which comprised of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Kent Patera, Scott Casey, Tito Santana, and they faced Dino Bravo, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Harley Race, and Andre the Giant. This contest, this whole contest really was built around Andre Giant being afraid of Damien and Jake the Snake Roberts, really just coming after Andre, and the Heenan family really picking bones with Jake the Snake Roberts, and all surrounded by the Snake. Could really tell when Andre the Giant was mad and he wanted to get even in this contest. Absolutely. Because there were certain points in times when Andre the Giant was tied up in the ropes and Jake and Hacksaw Jim Duggan would start wailing on Andre's head. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. Towards the end of the matchup, Andre the Giant went ballistic all over Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, tearing him apart with his devastating chokehold to the point that he got disqualified. And then Mr. Perfect very easily covered him. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Perfect and Dino Bravo was the sole survivors. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jake Snake Roberts hit one of his great devastating DDTs, and it was tremendous to see that. Wish people right now would hit some more of those, DDTs like it. There was back and forth before that devastating DDT between Jake Roberts and Ravishing Rick Rude. Awesome matchup right before the main event. The Mega Powers, Macho Man Randy Savage and the Immortal Hulk Hogan. They lead Coco Beware the mighty Hercules and Hillbilly Jim. They take on the Twin Towers, the African Dream, Akeem, and the Big Boss Man. Their teammates are the Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, King Hot Koo, and the Red Rooster. This contest, you know, once again, it is kind of guaranteed that Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage are going to win. I mean, it is guaranteed, especially because of the build and how it was all built up. Big Boss Man tearing apart Hulk Hogan with the nightstick and all this huge build that was leading up to the Survivor Series, plus the steel cage match, amongst everything else that Big Boss Man and Hulk Hogan was having leading up to the Survivor Series. And after the Survivor Series, everything that was taking place, guaranteed that Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage was going to be the sole survivors. But the key thing about this main event was, and what really makes me appreciate and like about WWE definitely back then, and really makes me wish they would do more of this type of stuff these days, which they definitely don't. Absolutely not. We don't see any of this kind of stuff these days. Is they start building huge rivalries that once again lead up for months. Just like the Demolition and the Powers of Pain rivalry, the Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage rivalry leading up to WrestleMania 5 when the Mega Powers exploded. Really, you could see it starting to form now at Survivor Series 1988, because after they won the matchup and the Mega Powers was the sole survivors, Hulk Hogan picked up Miss Elizabeth and gave her one big hug and circled around. Macho Man Randy Savage started looking at Hulk Hogan very weird and concerned and kind of mad. You could tell he was starting to shrug it off. He shrugged it off eventually, but he really didn't like what was going on. That, to me, was a start, was the light of that rivalry. Survivor Series 1988. Definitely. You could see it coming right then. Very interesting start. A very good start. Giving them 5 or 6 months to build to a huge, epic payoff. A huge matchup at WrestleMania. But the Survivor Series 1988 gave us some great starts of rivalries, continued on some rivalries that we saw for months on down the road. Y'all let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Go back and watch SummerSlam preview and predictions, Monday Night Raw review, SmackDown Live reviews. Go back and watch the 1987 review. Plus, tune in to my SummerSlam review immediately after SummerSlam. All that plus so much more if you have missed it on the channel that is uploaded right now. Go back and tune into it. 2007 Webby for Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button so you get all of my uploads when I upload them. Until I see you again, this is Webby, and I will catch you on the other side. Talk to you.